In this video we are going to talk about 10 Reddit scary stories. So before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to this channel for our future updates. Number 10. The dolls are alive. Pippinacious on Reddit. What shocked me out of my stupor, I'm not sure. My heart was racing, and I couldn't recall any details, so I figured it was a nightmare. I inhaled deeply and rolled over, half asleep, to find myself staring at a shadowy person on the couch nearby. I yelped and sat up, grabbed the closest light source, my phone, and shining it at my bed. Fran was curled up next to me, laying on his side. To get rid of the lingering terror he'd induced in me, I let out a short chuckle and gave myself a small shake before picking him up. "Did you tumble from the shelf?" the narrator inquires. I whispered, "What are you looking for?" Because I had pushed him too near to the edge before, gravity had done its job. I gently pressed my hand on Fran's. The narrator exclaims, "Get out of here." Number 9. On the Tokyo subway, I met a demon. According to Reddit user Life is Strange Me Too, the subway station had vanished as I looked around, being replaced with flowing green fields littered with ancient trains. I explained, "I can no longer see the metro station." The devil responded, "It's fine. Sometimes it's more important to see what isn't there than what is." "What do you mean?" says the narrator. "When I'm bored or sad, my mind drifts to the third dimension, where I meet people like you," says the author. "That's hysterical," I remarked. "Are you able to travel to different dimensions as well?" On the other hand, the creature remained silent, his gaze fixed on the sky. He whooshed his wings up over his head and said, "It's starting to rain." When the droplets touched my face, they were hot. "Would it be alright if I moved in under your wing?" I wanted to know more about it, so I asked a few more questions. "Not at the moment," he replied. "It is imperative that you return to your residence." The world began to swirl and flow together like a kaleidoscope of green and golden hues, whirling in circles faster and faster. I closed my eyes when I began to feel nauseous. Even when the globe stopped spinning, warm water drops continued to fall on my face. When I opened my eyes, all I saw was my mother crying over me, but I didn't see my father. "Dad, where have you gone?" says the narrator. A question was posed to her by me. Did he take me with him when he went home? I had a thought. She answered, "Yes, sweetheart," but didn't look at me. "After delivering you home, he had to leave." I said, "Oh. Could you tell me when he'll be back? Could you tell me when he'll be back? Could you tell me when he'll be back? Could you tell me when he'll be back?" "I'm not sure," she admits. "My father never returned, and it took me years to discover out why he had committed suicide that day." Number 8. Emergency alert. The Crystal Gem, a Redditor. When I awoke, I saw there was no rain. I haven't done anything, to tell you the truth. I went to check if the warning had been cancelled because I was more perplexed than ever. I redialed my brother's number on the phone. After it got to voicemail, I decided to give up. I decided to go upstairs and take a chance. To keep my dogs from following me upstairs, I had to squeeze between the door and the wall, but I was successful, and they remained in the basement. I walked from the kitchen to the front door and gazed out. The TV briefly flickered as I struggled to look outside in the dark, odd, considering it was just 2 p.m. according to my clock. It flickered again when I turned to look at it, but this time it was accompanied by every device on the bottom floor. Unconcerned, I turned around and glanced through the door. The lights were turned off in every house on the street. No one was visible outside. Number 7. The Scare of a Smile. Neon Tempo is a popular Reddit user. At this time, we've done 23 turns. I get the idea that we're already getting a good handle on the city. Passers-by exchanging a few appreciative glances with Rob's substantially modded Wrangler and numerous courteous honks from other Jeep drivers. Except for those few exceptions, everything looks to be how it would be on a usual morning commute. I'm starting to wonder that this story will be completed. Reporter takes drive with interesting man isn't even close to becoming a Pulitzer Prize-winning story. A modest, inconspicuous road awaits at turn 33. At the end of a beautiful Phoenician neighborhood, there's wine, second-hand clothing, tools, and a small boutique selling antique mirrors. A group of around 10 people shuffles down the sidewalk, smiling, chatting, and talking about their weekend plans. A young woman in a gray coat is the sole lone individual. At the end of the block, she stands on our next corner, the back of her coat mirrored in 50 antique mirrors, and I catch a quick sight of her. I can see she's irritable, wide-eyed, and terrified even from a distance. Her coat buttons stretched as she sways from side to side. As we ride down the street, I avert my gaze and scribble some notes. When I raise my eyes, the woman in front of my window is staring at me. Her face is adorned with a big, unflappable grin that is almost offensive in its lack of genuineness. As the woman, wild-eyed and haggard, smashes her fists against my window in an attempt to burst through, I instinctively push myself back in my chair. Number 6. The Limping Woman. This entry was written by Pip Ignatius. Our first thought is a simple urban legend. Everyone can identify to the Erie Road because it exists in every town, city, suburb, fortress, and hamlet. There are so many devil roads, cursed highways, and demonic driveways in the United States that you could easily plan a cross-country road trip solely based on ghost streets. But don't allow their popularity mislead you into thinking these paths aren't dangerous. The Limping Woman reminds us that these tales have a reason to exist. It's not necessary to be a creative genius to tell a good story. This one hits the mark to make you reconsider taking a late-night walk. Number 5. It turns out the scratches weren't caused by a bear. The neighboring Worcester Saint only one story out of the many we read for this segment makes good use of images. You'll get a lot of images of the location, as well as information on what the two folks saw when they were there. Despite the brief length of this tale, the writer employs some of the shortest word counts we've ever seen in a story. By the end of the film, we had made a promise to ourselves that we would only stay in fully furnished, stable structures. Number 4. The Quiet Neighbor. This entry was written by Pip Ignatius. We've never read a better take on scary guy on our neighborhood is unsettling. The story's essential base is a creepy person being creepy, but the actual confrontation between the kids and the guy goes above and beyond our expectations. The build-up is thorough, and the payoff is a well-crafted, fast-paced blast of adrenaline-pumping action with a horrifying twist. This might have easily been a story about a father who murders his children in his basement, which would have been okay if it hadn't been on the list. Rather, the story presents new concepts and gives an old cliché fresh life. Number 3. Return to Sender labeled package. This was provided by Mon and Lisa. Urban legends are renowned for having a hard time adapting to modern times. People a century ago and well beyond appear to be more in tune with what makes us uneasy on a supernatural, personal level, thus those are the stories that make us uneasy. It's even better when a modern mythology combines traditional concerns with slashing technology. We can't say much about the plot without giving too much away, so we'll just recommend that you get to know your neighbors as much as possible, even if you don't like them. Number 2. Grandma's light is never turned off. In the game Saint Entropy is a character. Grandma's light is always on is a brief ghost story that hits all the appropriate notes without delving into needless detail. It starts by presuming that we're all aware of our grandparents' strange habits, which is a reasonable assumption, and then moves on. It's also one of the few stories on this list that sticks to the basics, favoring a simple dark versus slight conflict over a monster hunt through the woods or a foray into voodoo and witchcraft. It's a short, solid ghost story that'll leave you wondering why individuals have certain habits and perspectives. Number 1. I work for the U.S. Forest Service as a search and rescue officer. Honesty is long overdue. The series was not completed. We had to go watch V repeats till we cooled down because it was a little too much for our terrified caveman brains to handle. In these blogs, the officer discusses occurrences that have a strong emotional effect on him. Everybody has spent too much time in the woods, and everyone has spent too long in the woods, and everyone has spent too long in the woods, and everyone has spent too much time in the woods, and everybody has spent too long in the woods, and everyone has spent too much time in the woods, and everybody has spent too much. These tales address the basic worries of trying to get your dog back to the car before sundown so you can get out of the park within closing time, or when you're out camping and nature calls late at night, so you head to the tree line and things start rustling. Before contacting your legislators in Congress to urge them to support the shutdown of the U.S. Forest Service, please read them thoroughly. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.